Title, Episode 1, The Night the Angel Burned. The night I saw the angel, the church was already screaming. The fire began without warning, no lightning, no candles overturned, no sinner's cigarette left smoldering in the pews. Just a sudden roar, as if heaven had inhaled an exhale through the stained glass windows. I was standing at the altar, finishing my final prayer of the evening. The air shifted, hot and thick, and the statue of Saint Bridget cracked down its marble face. Then came the sound, not wood burning, not crackling embers, but voices. Hundreds of them. Wailing, pleading, praising. I couldn't tell which. I should have run. Instead, I stepped closer to the flames. The nave glowed red, the crucifix bending under the heat like melting wax. And then, amidst the inferno, I saw it, an outline, radiant, trembling, made of smoke and light. Two vast wings folded inward, feathers flickering like candlefire. An angel. At least, that's what my mind told me before it began to speak. Not with words. With flame. Every flicker shaped syllables in the air, each spark spelling something I couldn't comprehend. My ears bled with the sound of it, like scripture torn apart by thunder. Elian. It knew my name. I stumbled backward, coughing, clutching the silver cross around my neck. The angel turned its face toward me, or what should have been a face. Instead, there was only a hollow blaze, an emptiness that burned. "Are you from God?" I asked. My voice shook. The fire pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Then a single ember broke free, drifted toward me, and landed on my chest. It didn't burn. It entered. I gasped, and the world fell silent. When I opened my eyes again, the church was gone. Only smoke remained, columns of it, twisting like the ghosts of my congregation. I heard a whisper deep inside my mind. "Speak for me." I found myself kneeling among the ashes, clutching a charred Bible. Its pages had fused together, except for one, Isaiah 6 verse 6, then one of the seraphim flew to me, with a live coal in his hand. I laughed, though it sounded more like a sob. Outside, the bells tolled by themselves, one after another, even though the tower had already collapsed. I told myself I had witnessed a miracle. But when I raised my hand, I saw my skin glowing faintly beneath the soot, like something holy had taken residence inside me. Or something hellish pretending to be holy. That night, the angel left its mark not only on the church but on my soul. And ever since then, when I close my eyes, I don't see heaven. I see fire waiting, whispering, calling my name. Title, Episode 2, The Voice Behind the Sermon. Every time I said amen, it spoke through me instead. I thought the fire had left me that night. But the truth is, it stayed. Quiet. Patient. Waiting behind my breath. When St. Bridget's Cathedral lay in ruins, I was reassigned to a smaller parish in the outskirts of the city, a place where faith was worn thin like old robes, and where people came to pray not for heaven, but for survival. The church called it a temporary placement. I called it exile. The first morning I preached there, the words came out smoother than ever before. I didn't even glance at my notes. The phrases flowed like oil from my tongue, gentle at first, then burning with conviction I didn't recognize as my own. God speaks through suffering, I told them. And some fires are meant to cleanse, not consume. The congregation leaned forward, eyes wide, lips trembling. I saw mothers weeping, old men clutching their rosaries until their knuckles went white. For a brief, trembling moment, I believed I had been chosen to reignite faith in the forgotten. But then I saw it. A faint shimmer above the altar candles, heat without flame. The shape of a wing, curling, bending, hovering just above the crucifix. I faltered mid-sentence. The crowd stared, waiting. The air pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. And then I felt it, the voice, blooming from somewhere deep in my chest. It whispered through my lungs, rising up with every breath, every word. "Speak for me." I tried to stop. I couldn't. My voice grew louder, booming through the chapel. The air trembled, the walls groaned. I saw faces lift toward me, entranced. A little girl began to sob, not in fear but in devotion, her tears turning to steam as they hit the floor. When the sermon ended, no one clapped. No one moved. They just knelt. Some kissed the ground. Others screamed blessings into the ceiling. That night, they returned. Not one or two but dozens. Knocking on the church door long after midnight, begging me to speak again. I refused. I shut the doors, turned off every light. But as I sat in the dark, I heard it, my own voice, echoing from the empty pews. Faith is fire. And I am its flame. I ran to the altar, trembling. The candles had lit themselves. Their flames were no longer golden, they were red. And then, for the briefest second, I saw her again, the figure from the burning church. Not fully formed, but reflected in the shimmer of the candlelight. Her wings flickered like torn silk. Her eyes were pits of ember. She whispered, not with words, but with heat. I felt the message against my skin. "You are my tongue now." When I woke the next morning, I found the entire sermon written on the walls of my room in ash. And at the bottom, a single sentence in perfect script. Preach or burn. Title, Episode 3, Confession of Fire. She said her sins burned before I could absolve them. It was a Thursday evening when the woman came. Rain struck the chapel roof like 1,000 whispered warnings. The confessional smelled of wet wood and candle smoke. I remember her voice, thin, trembling, the kind of voice that carried guilt too heavy for flesh. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," she said. "But my sins won't die. They keep waking me in the fire." Her words clung to the air like ash. I couldn't see her face through the lattice, only her hands pale, shaking, clutching a rosary so tightly it drew blood. "What fire?" I asked. She hesitated. Then came a soft, broken laugh. "The one he left in me. The angel in your sermon." My pulse froze. She leaned closer to the screen. "When you spoke last Sunday, I felt something enter me. At first, it was warmth, then light, then screaming. I tried to breathe, but the air was thick, heavy with incense and fear." "You're frightened," I said. "That voice you heard, it's not from God. It's temptation." But she shook her head violently. "No. He said he was cleansing me. That my sins were oil, and his flame would make me pure." I opened my mouth to answer, and then the smell hit me. Not incense. Not candle wax. Flesh. Burning flesh. Her rosary began to melt in her hands. She gasped, trying to open the confessional door, but the handle glowed red-hot. Flames blossomed from her sleeves, racing up her arms like living serpents. I slammed my shoulder against the door, shouting her name, but it was useless. The fire didn't spread. It stayed only with her, contained, deliberate, holy. Her eyes met mine through the smoke. She wasn't screaming anymore. She was smiling. "Forgive me," she whispered, "he watches." Then the fire collapsed inward, swallowing her whole. No ash. No body. Only the faint outline of wings burned into the wood. When I told the bishop what happened, he called it hysteria. Said grief and guilt make monsters of our senses. He forbade me to speak of it again. But that night, when I returned to my room, the smell of smoke lingered on my cassock. My palms were red where I touched the confessional door. And on my desk lay a single piece of scorched parchment, curled at the edges. I didn't put it there. 3 words were burned into it. Her soul's awake. I tried to pray, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, a whisper rose from within me, soft, reverent, and burning. 1 flame for every sin. I looked toward the window. Outside, the rain no longer fell. The night sky was glowing faintly, as if something vast and unseen had taken fire above the clouds. And for the first time, I realized confession doesn't cleanse the soul. It feeds it to the fire. Title, Episode 4, The Choir Without Eyes. They sang without eyes, and still they saw me. It began with music. Soft, angelic, distant, like the echo of heaven trapped beneath the floorboards. At first, I thought it was a hymn drifting from a nearby parish. But the melody was wrong. The notes bent, wavered, and slipped into tones no human throat could hold. That Sunday morning, I found the source, the children's choir. They stood in the chapel, perfectly still, hands clasped, faces tilted upward as if waiting for something unseen. They weren't rehearsing. They were listening. "Children," I said gently. "What are you doing here so early?" No answer. Only the faint sound of breathing. Then, all at once, they turned toward me, 12 pairs of eyes, glazed, pale, lifeless. My stomach turned. Sister Miriam rushed in behind me, gasping. "Father Elian, they came like this. Their parents said they were fine when they left home." One of the boys stepped forward. His lips trembled, his voice hoarse, as if each word was being pulled from deep within him. He said, "We don't need eyes to see God." The others nodded. Some smiled. And then they began to sing. It wasn't melody anymore. It was language, raw, sacred, ancient. Words I didn't understand, yet my soul recoiled from their sound. The air thickened. Candles flickered though no wind moved. Their voices climbed higher, and higher still, until blood dripped from their noses, their mouths. Sister Miriam screamed, but I couldn't move. The song gripped me like chains. I saw something then, just beyond them, hovering in the shimmer of air above the altar. A shadow made of light, trembling with heat. The faint outline of wings. And eyes, hundreds of eyes, circling, opening, closing, weeping molten tears that hissed against the stone. The children sang louder. The shadow pulsed brighter. It was feeding on them. I tore the crucifix from the wall and shouted a prayer, though I can't recall which one. The instant I said amen, the song stopped. The children collapsed to the floor, silent, breathing shallow, the smell of burned incense and something far worse in the air. When I looked again, the shadow was gone. Only a scorch mark remained on the ceiling, shaped like a single vast feather. That night, I sat by their hospital beds. The doctors said their eyes were intact but unresponsive. They were blind, though no injury explained it. One of them, a little girl named Clara, reached for my hand. Her skin was cold. He said, she whispered, "We sang wrong. He'll come back for the right song." I wanted to ask who he was, but her grip tightened. Her blind eyes turned toward me, wide and wet. "Father," she breathed, "you're glowing." I pulled my hand away and saw faint light bleeding through the veins of my wrist, pulsing softly like embers beneath the skin. I realized then, the angel wasn't finished with them. It was tuning me. Title, Episode 5, The Bishop's Secret. He kept holy water in a flask of blood. The letter came sealed in black wax, a color reserved only for death or disgrace. It bore the crest of the diocese and a single command: return to the cathedral ruins. The bishop requests you. I hadn't seen Bishop Corvin since the fire. His silence was louder than any sermon. The man who once praised me for bringing light to the forgotten had vanished behind Vatican paperwork and shuttered doors. So when his carriage arrived at my parish, I followed without a word. The cathedral was colder than I remembered. Its walls were skeletons, its pews ash. Yet, inside the wreckage, candles burned not with yellow flame, but red. Dozens of them. Bishop Corvin stood before the altar, his robes darker than the night itself. His eyes, gray, sleepless, looked like they'd seen too much. "Father Elian," he said softly, "the church fears what you've brought back." I bowed my head. "You mean who, not what?" He studied me for a long moment, then gestured toward the altar. A small silver flask rested there, glinting faintly under the crimson light. "Do you know what this is?" I shook my head. He lifted it reverently. "Holy water, taken from the ashes of St. Brigid's Cathedral. But it doesn't bless. It burns." He uncorked it, and the scent hit me instantly, metal, salt, and something alive. The liquid inside was red, thick, pulsing faintly as though it had a heartbeat. "Blood," I whispered. "Not blood," the bishop corrected. "Grace. Corrupted grace. Your angel left it behind." My throat tightened. "You knew?" He sighed, a weary sound that seemed to age him a decade. "Every century, one of them appears an exile from the choir above. They call themselves messengers, but they are not sent. They escape. They burn to purify, to rewrite creation in fire." I felt the room tilt, my vision blurring. "Then what do they want from me?" He placed the flask into my hands. It was warm, too warm. To speak. To act. To finish what they cannot do without a human vessel. I tried to set it down, but my fingers wouldn't obey. The warmth seeped through my skin, crawling up my arm. I could hear faint whispers inside the liquid, like prayers uttered underwater. "Bishop, it's moving." He didn't look surprised. "Because it knows you. You were chosen the moment you survived that fire." Something shifted behind him, a flicker of light, a faint winged shadow stretching across the wall. My heart stuttered. "Do you see that?" Corvin didn't turn. His voice trembled. "I've seen it every night since you left. It stands by my bed. It tells me that salvation was a mistake." The candles suddenly flared, the red light bursting into orange, gold, and white. The bishop screamed, clutching his chest as the flask shattered in my hands. The blood-like water spilled across the floor, igniting in flame. Through the blaze, I saw his face twist, not in agony, but in awe. "Do you hear it, Elian?" he cried. "It's the sound of heaven remembering." I tried to drag him out, but the fire lifted him, literally lifted him into the air, wrapping around his body like wings. For one impossible moment, he was radiant. Then, just as suddenly, he was gone. Only ashes remained. And in the center of those ashes, untouched by flame, lay a small feather made of glass, still glowing from within. I held it up to the light, and for an instant, I heard the angel's voice whisper, clearer than ever before. "Now, you carry the bishop's faith. Let it burn." Title, Episode 6, The Burned Bible. I found a Bible that refused to burn, and then it screamed. The morning after Bishop Corvin's death, I couldn't pray. Every word felt hollow, devoured by the silence that followed me like smoke. His blood, or whatever it was, still clung to my cassock. And though I washed my hands until they bled, I could still feel the warmth of that cursed flask seeping through my skin. When I returned to the parish, the air was thick with the scent of soot. Someone had left a package on the altar, wrapped in black cloth, tied with a rosary that had melted into the knot. No name, no message. only a faint scorch mark where it had rested. I should have ignored it. But curiosity, or perhaps the angel's pull, got the better of me. Inside lay a Bible, ancient, leather-cracked, pages yellowed. The cover bore no title, only a symbol, a single wing made of flame, pressed into the hide. The moment I touched it, the candles flickered. The air trembled. I felt that familiar whisper, curling around the edges of my mind. Read. The first pages were normal Genesis, Exodus, familiar stories of divine fire and holy wrath. But midway through Psalms, the ink began to change. The words grew darker, fresher, wet. I brushed my fingers against them and felt heat. And then the Bible screamed. Not a sound made by paper or binding, but something inside it. A cry that came from the space between verses, the hollow breath of the page. The book slammed shut, smoke curling from its spine. I dropped it, stumbling backward. The voice inside me, the angel's voice, was laughing. "You hold my tongue," it whispered. "Every word I burned is now yours to speak." I tried to flee, but the chapel doors slammed shut on their own. The Bible lay on the floor, glowing faintly, the cross on its cover pulsing like a heartbeat. A gust of wind tore through the room, scattering pages, each one twisting midair, blackening at the edges. On one page, I saw a verse that doesn't exist in any scripture I know. "And the servant shall write not with ink, but with ash. And his breath shall kindle truth upon the altar of man." Then, silence. The flames vanished. The Bible lay still again, but the floor beneath it bore the mark of a handprint burned into stone. When I finally dared to touch it again, I realized something impossible: the pages had changed. Every sermon I had ever spoken, every word whispered through me by the angel, was now written inside it. Even the confessions. Even the lies. I wanted to destroy it. To cast it into the river and forget. But when I lifted it, the cover seared my palm, branding the symbol of the flaming wing into my flesh. That night, I dreamt of the angel again. It stood within a library of burning books, its wings unfurled, each feather a glowing scripture. It turned to me, eyes like molten gold, and said softly, "The Word was made fire, and the fire was made flesh." When I awoke, the Bible rested open beside me. A new passage had written itself overnight, one I hadn't seen before. The next page shall be the priest's confession. Title, Episode 7, The Saint Who Never Died. The saint's bones were still warm. I traveled north to the monastery of St. Aurelius, following the only clue the burned Bible offered. Between its warped pages, a single line had appeared overnight, glowing faintly like a dying ember. "Seek the body that breathes beneath the marble." St. Aurelius was said to have died 3 centuries ago, his body entombed in crystal, incorrupt, untouched by decay, a miracle, they claimed. Pilgrims came from every corner of the continent to kneel before his resting place. But I came not to pray. I came to listen. The monks greeted me with uneasy eyes. They'd heard the rumors, the fire, the sermons, the woman who burned alive. Still, they led me into the catacombs, their chants echoing off stone walls blackened with centuries of candle smoke. At the heart of the crypt stood the saint's tomb, a glass coffin framed in gold, a single candle burning at its head. Through the haze, I saw him, perfect, untouched, lips curved in a faint smile, as though he dreamed of heaven. 300 years, murmured Brother Jonah, and not a mark of death. I stepped closer. The air around the coffin shimmered, thick with heat. The candle flickered though there was no draft. I placed a hand upon the glass. It was warm. Too warm. Then, faintly, the glass moved. A breath. Shallow, fragile, but real. I froze. "He's alive," I whispered. Brother Jonah's face went pale. "No, Father. He is preserved. But the truth was already alive in the air around us, moving, humming, whispering. I heard it between the walls, in the bones, in the breath that wasn't supposed to exist. The angel's voice returned, curling like smoke around my ears. My fire does not kill, Elian. It remembers. The candle's flame flared white. The saint's eyelids twitched. Then, slowly, they opened. Eyes the color of molten gold stared straight at me. Who speaks? The body rasped. His lips cracked, a sound like splitting wood. I am Father Elian, I managed. You're supposed to be dead. He smiled faintly. So are you. Before I could move, the candle burst. The wax turned black, dripping upward instead of down. Heat washed over us. The other monks screamed, running for the exit. I stayed. The saint, if he still was one, rose within the coffin. The glass melted away like sugar. His hands, charred but steady, reached toward me. The flame you carry, he whispered, was mine once. My chest tightened. Yours? He nodded, eyes flickering like a dying fire. The angel found me long before it found you. It promised divinity. But every blessing burns until nothing human remains. Then his body began to crumble, skin to ash, ash to smoke. He pressed his palm to my forehead, and a searing image carved itself into my mind, a city of angels burning themselves to stay bright. When I opened my eyes, I was alone. The monks had fled. The coffin was empty except for a pile of glowing embers arranged in the shape of wings. From within the ashes, a single whisper rose, carried by the heat. You are next. And for the first time since the fire, I wondered if I was not chosen, but replaced. Title, Episode 8, Ashes of Grace. Every miracle left behind ashes in my lungs. After the saint crumbled into nothingness, I thought the nightmare would end. But faith spreads like fire, quiet, patient, unstoppable. Word of my blessing traveled faster than smoke. Within weeks, the small parish where I hid was drowning in believers. They came limping, bleeding, dying children with fevers, mothers with hollow eyes, men with wounds that would not close. They called me Father Flame. I told them I had no power. They knelt anyway. The first miracle happened by accident. A boy, no older than 8, collapsed before the altar. His skin was pale, his breath shallow. His mother screamed for help. I tried to pray, but my voice trembled. And then it took over. The angel's whisper crawled through my throat like smoke-seeking air. Speak for me. My hands rose on their own. Heat pulsed beneath my skin, glowing faintly through my veins. When I touched the boy's forehead, light burst from my palms, white, blinding, holy. He gasped once, then opened his eyes. Alive. Whole. Smiling. The crowd erupted in sobs and praise. They touched my robes, kissed my hands. A miracle, they cried. But I couldn't breathe. The warmth didn't fade, it grew. My lungs burned with invisible fire. When I exhaled, a wisp of ash drifted from my lips. I told myself it was exhaustion. But that night, I coughed black dust into my sink. It smelled like the cathedral after it burned. By the end of the week, there were more miracles. A blind woman who could see. A soldier's arm regrown from scar. A dying man whose heart beat strong again. And with each one, my chest grew heavier, as if the angel's grace demanded payment in smoke. I began keeping count. 17 healed. 17 nights of coughing ash. Then came the 18th. A young nun named Leora, struck with fever. She begged for my blessing. Her voice was small, trembling like a candle's flame before it dies. I wanted to refuse. I should have refused. But when she whispered, "Please, Father," something inside me broke. I pressed my hand to her forehead. The room brightened. Heat filled the air. The fever left her and entered me. I fell to my knees, gasping. My vision blurred. Through the haze, I saw her eyes open. But they were wrong. They glowed faintly, like embers in the dark. She smiled, and in that smile, I saw the angel's reflection. "Father," she whispered, "he says the fire loves you." Before I could speak, the candles exploded. Flames raced along the walls, spelling words in black smoke. Grace is the body of fire. When it was over, the chapel was untouched. No scorch marks, no damage. Only the faint scent of ash and Leora, standing before the altar, whispering prayers that sounded more like commands. I looked at my trembling hands. My veins still glowed, but now they branched outward like cracks in porcelain. The angel was no longer whispering to me. It was whispering through others. Title, Episode 9, The Woman in White Fire. She burned in silence and smiled. I began to fear the nights most of all. That was when the air turned heavy, when the candles whispered instead of flickered, when the angel's warmth felt less like light and more like infection. And always, there was Leora. She prayed longer than anyone. She never slept. The other nuns whispered that her skin no longer felt like skin but wax, that when sunlight touched her, it glowed from within. I told them it was imagination. But deep down, I knew the truth. I had seen that glow before. It was the same light that spoke to me through fire. One night, unable to stand the silence, I went to her cell. The door was ajar. Inside, 100 candles burned, but none had wicks. The flames floated in the air, suspended, breathing like living things. Leora knelt in the center of them, her hands folded, her eyes closed. "Leora," I whispered, "you should rest." Her head lifted slowly. When her eyes met mine, the pupils were gone, only white, shining like molten glass. "I am resting," she said. "In him." I froze. "In who?" She smiled faintly. "The one you carry." The candles leaned toward her, as though bowing. Her skin began to shimmer, thin veins of light crawling beneath the surface. "He says you are afraid, Father. But he chose you. Why do you resist his warmth?" "Because it burns," I wanted to scream. "Because it kills." But the words never left my throat. "Leora," I said instead, "he is not what you think. He lies." Her expression darkened, pitying, almost maternal. "No, Father. He remembers. He remembers the day the heavens closed, when the first light fell. He remembers the silence that followed God's last word." As she spoke, the candles rose higher, forming a ring of fire around us. Shadows vanished. Every surface gleamed like molten gold. I felt the angel's presence, pressing against the edges of my soul like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. "Leora," I gasped, "you have to stop." Her hands opened. The flames obeyed. They gathered before her, swirling, merging, forming wings. White fire, pure and blinding. And in that brightness, she changed. Her face became still, beautiful, terrible. Her voice deepened, layered with something inhuman. "Do not fear me, Elian. You prayed for truth. I am the answer." I stumbled backward, the crucifix trembling in my grasp. "You are not an angel. You are a curse." The being that had once been Leora tilted her head, studying me like a child watching an insect struggle. "A curse is only faith misunderstood. The flames pulsed once, then vanished. The cell fell into darkness. When my eyes adjusted, she was gone. Only a faint glow lingered on the floor, a single white feather, made entirely of ash, still warm to the touch. That night, the villagers saw a figure walking through the fields. A woman in white fire. Wherever she stepped, the earth did not burn, it bloomed, then turned to dust. And when the wind carried her name to my window, the angel's voice rose again inside me, soft and merciful. You see, Elian, even ashes can worship. Title, Episode 10, Letters from the Furnace. Hell sent mail, and the envelope was my heart. The first letter arrived before dawn. I found it slipped beneath the chapel door, edges singed, sealed with something that looked like wax, but smelled like sulfur. There was no name, no address, only a single symbol burned into the paper, the wing of fire. My hand shook as I tore it open. Inside was a single page, written in soot. The handwriting was mine. At Vespers tonight, Brother Jonah will burn. The words crawled across the page, fresh and warm. I laughed, a short, broken sound. Some cruel prank, I told myself. A trick of my exhausted mind. But when Vespers came, Jonah lit the first candle. It flared like oil. He screamed before anyone could reach him. The flame devoured him whole, fast and pure, leaving behind nothing but the faint scent of incense and a single unburned rosary. The page in my hand turned blank. The next morning, another letter waited. The same seal, the same handwriting. The bells will toll without hands. When they stop, 3 souls will fall. I locked myself inside the sacristy, refusing to look, refusing to breathe. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, the tower erupted with sound. The bells swung on their own, iron shrieking against iron, louder and louder until the glass in the windows shattered. Then, silence. 3 bodies were found in the courtyard. Their faces serene, as though they died mid-prayer. And so it continued. Each letter a prophecy. Each prophecy a wound. I burned them all, one by one, but each morning they returned unscathed, waiting on the altar as if delivered by unseen hands. Every word written in my own cursed script. Then came the letter that ended my denial. Leora will kneel before the pyre, and you will set her alight. Only then will the gate open. I tore the paper apart, screaming, but the pieces turned to ash madder and reformed at my feet, perfectly whole. That night, I dreamed of the angel again. It stood within a furnace of white flame, wings unfurled, eyes like molten suns. Its voice was both inside and outside me. You write because I remember. You burn because I forgive. I awoke to find my desk covered in soot. Dozens of letters, freshly written. My name signed at the bottom of every one. I don't remember writing them. I wish I did. They tell of deaths yet to come, names of villagers, of priests, of children. And at the very end of the pile, one final envelope. Unopened. Unsealed. On it, a single sentence. The last fire will be your confession. My hands won't stop shaking as I write this now. The ink smudges, the candlelight flickers, and I swear I can hear the rustle of wings outside my window, soft, patient, waiting for me to open the next letter. I think I already know what it says. Title, Episode 11, The Inverted Cross. It turned itself upside down. By the time the 11th letter came, I had stopped sleeping. The parish was nearly empty, half the congregation had fled, the other half prayed in silence, afraid their voices might call down something listening in the dark. The letter was different this time. No prophecy. No name. Just 2 words, written in the same ashen script. Look up. I didn't understand until the bells began again. It was midnight. The tower should have been empty, but I heard footsteps above me, slow and deliberate, echoing down the stone stairwell. The candles along the nave trembled as if exhaling. The air grew heavier with every step I climbed. When I reached the top, the great crucifix that hung above the altar was turning. Not swaying. Turning. The iron chain creaked as it rotated, slowly, until Christ hung inverted, his head pointed toward heaven, his feet toward hell. The moment it locked in place, every candle in the church flared blood red. I dropped to my knees. Stop. Please. But faith doesn't bargain with fire. A sound filled the space, a low hum, like 1,000 voices breathing at once. The air rippled. The cross began to glow from within, metal bending, cracking, bleeding light. The statue's eyes opened. And then it spoke. Not from the figure on the cross, but from the light itself, bursting out of its chest. Elian. The voice was layered, thousands of tones folded into one, divine and unbearable. My bones felt it before my ears did. I covered my face. What do you want from me? To finish what began in fire. Why me? The light pulsed, almost tender. Because you listened. Behind me, the pews rattled. Every symbol of faith inverted, the statues turned their heads, the paintings darkened, halos blackened into rings of ash. The very air smelled of scripture and smoke. I crawled toward the altar, clutching the burned Bible to my chest. If you're from heaven, then prove it. Show me grace. The light shuddered, then dimmed. And through that fading brilliance, I saw its shape emerge at last. Not an angel of peace. An angel of remembrance. Its wings were not feathers but blades of light, folded inward. Its body, a wound that glowed. And where its face should have been only shifting flame. Grace is not forgiveness, it said. It is memory made flesh. Every prayer, every sin, every lie the church buried, I am what remains. The crucifix snapped, crashing to the floor. The candles went out. Only the glow of its presence remained, painting the walls in red. Then what am I? I whispered. The angel tilted its head. You are the bridge. I didn't understand until I felt the ground quake beneath me. The cracks on the floor formed a pattern, an inverted cross, stretching from altar to door. At its center, my name burned in letters of gold. And above me, in a voice almost gentle, it whispered, "Now, open the gate." I woke hours later on the cold stone floor. The church was silent, untouched. The crucifix hung upright again, as if nothing had happened. But my cassock was scorched at the chest, shaped like a cross turned upside down. And when I looked in the mirror, my reflection smiled before I did. Title, Episode 12, The Angel's Name. Names have power, and this one burned through paper. For weeks, I avoided opening the last letter. I kept it sealed inside the Bible that refused to burn, buried beneath my bed like a relic of sin. But the whisper never left. It lingered in the corners of my mind, soft and patient, like the sound of wings brushing against thought. It came to me in confession. No penitent, no candlelight, only me, speaking into the dark, begging for forgiveness from a God who'd long stopped answering. My own voice echoed back, warped, unfamiliar. Say my name, Elian. I pressed my palms against my ears, shaking. You have no name. The walls trembled. The crucifix rattled on its hook. I had one before your church stole it. And then the Bible opened on its own. Pages fluttered like wings caught in a storm, stopping at Isaiah, again, always Isaiah. But this time, there was new writing scorched between the verses, letters formed not by ink, but by heat. Seraphiel. The moment I read it aloud, the candles flared to life, white and furious. The air burned without flame. The voice filled the room, not inside my head this time, but around me, pressing against my skin. "You remember me now." I staggered backward. "You're not an angel. You're the exile." The voice laughed, if laughter could bleed. "Exile, yes. For loving too much. For burning too bright. For refusing to forget the Maker's face when he turned away." The air thickened until every breath hurt. "You see, Elian, heaven does not forgive, it forgets. And when it forgets something holy, it falls." Images flooded my mind, armies of light turned to ash, golden wings breaking, voices once divine screaming as they fell through fire. Seraphiel among them, burning yet refusing to die. "Why me?" I whispered. The flames gathered into shape, human and not, a figure woven from light and ruin. Its eyes were endless. Its smile, unbearable. Because I needed memory. What memory? It stepped closer. The ground beneath my feet seared into symbols, circles, crosses, wings. Your faith remembers what heaven erased. Your doubt keeps the fire alive. The room spun. I could taste smoke in my blood. "You want redemption," I said. "That's why you speak through me. You think I can give it to you." The figure leaned close until its voice became a whisper against my ear. "No, child. I want forgiveness to burn again." The light vanished, leaving the world black. Only the name remained, glowing faintly on the open Bible, carved deep into the flesh of the page. When I touched it, pain shot through my hand. The letters branded into my skin, bright and living. I smelled my own flesh burning, and underneath it, something sweeter, incense and dawn. I collapsed, trembling. Outside, the bells rang once, twice, then stopped. From somewhere far above or far within, I heard the voice one last time that night, low and tender, like prayer through teeth of flame. "You carry my name now, Elian. And names are never given freely." Title, Episode 13, The Holy Lie. Heaven doesn't forgive, it forgets. After Seraphiel spoke its name, nothing felt sacred anymore. Prayer was no longer prayer, it was echo. The cross above my bed bent slightly, as if bowing to something unseen. And every time I whispered amen, I swore I heard someone else whisper it back. The next morning, I went to the diocesan archives, determined to prove I was losing my mind. The bishop's library had survived the fire, barely. It smelled of dust, wax, and time. Thousands of records, canonizations, miracles, death certificates, each stamped with the Vatican's red seal. But hidden among them, I found a drawer without a label. Locked. The key lay beneath a broken statue of Saint Michael, its wings missing. Inside were blackened scrolls. Pages so old they flaked under my fingers. They were written in Latin, but not church Latin. The letters curled like smoke, each word alive with heat. The first entry read, Anno Domini 1324. The angel of purification descended upon the city of Brindisi. It burned the plague from the righteous, and their ashes were declared holy. I turned another page. Rome, 1649. Madrid, 1783. Warsaw, 1912. Always the same pattern, a city cleansed by flame, miracles born of death, the church declaring sainthood upon those who perished in divine fire. And then, at the very end, one final record, dated the year of St. Brigid's Cathedral. My church. My parish. The page bore no text. Only a single name, carved into the parchment with what looked like blood. Seraphiel. My hands shook. My breath came ragged. It wasn't the first time it came. The door creaked behind me. Father Elian, a voice said softly. You weren't meant to find that. I turned. A man stood in the doorway, robes black, eyes hollow. A Vatican seal pinned to his chest. Who are you? I demanded. The custodian of silence, he replied. My order ensures that what heaven forgets remains forgotten. He stepped closer, the air around him heavy with the scent of burning paper. You've heard it, haven't you? The voice. The name. I clenched my fists. You knew. All this time, the church knew. His smile was small, tired. The church was built on it. Every flame that purifies, every miracle that consumes, it is Seraphiel's mercy. We just give it new names. I felt something inside me break. Then all the saints, the miracles, were sacrifices, he said simply. Each one chosen to feed the fire that keeps heaven warm. I staggered back. You call that divine? He sighed. We call it necessary. Before I could speak, he reached into his robe and pulled out a vial, the same crimson liquid the bishop had once shown me. It pulsed faintly, alive. This is faith distilled, he said. The church bottles it. You were supposed to be its next vessel. I stepped back. No. Then it will consume you from within. He smiled once more, as if pitying me, then poured the liquid over his own hands. It ignited instantly. He didn't scream. He prayed. And as his flesh turned to cinders, his last words melted into my ears. Remember this, Father, heaven only shines because something else keeps burning. When the fire died, nothing remained but ash. And in the ash, the same winged mark appeared again, perfect, glowing faintly, pulsing with breath. That night, I returned to the ruins of St. Brigid's Cathedral. I knelt among the soot, clutching the burned Bible, and whispered the words I swore I'd never say again. Seraphiel, what have we done? The wind carried the answer, soft and warm, like a confession. We built heaven, Elian. But we forgot what it costs. Title, Episode 14, Trial of the Burning Priest. They accused me of heresy, but my judge was made of light. They came for me at dawn. Men in crimson robes, faces half hidden beneath hoods, the seal of the holy tribunal pressed into the wax of every letter they carried. They didn't speak when they shackled my wrists. Only one of them crossed himself. They called it a trial. It felt more like a funeral. The Vatican's catacomb court was carved beneath the city, an endless stone wall lined with relics and silence. Torches burned with greenish flame, hissing like serpents as the air throbbed with whispered prayer. I was led to a marble dais where the judges sat, 3 cardinals, pale as wax, eyes rimmed with smoke. Father Elian, the central one, said, "You stand accused of blasphemy, desecration, and consorting with unholy forces. Do you deny it?" I looked at my chained hands. The skin still shimmered faintly where the angel's name had branded itself. "I deny nothing," I said. "But you judge me for hearing what you have hidden." The youngest cardinal flinched. The eldest frowned. "You speak of Seraphiel?" The name echoed off the walls like thunder. The torches flickered blue. I smiled bitterly. "So you do remember." Silence, the elder snapped, but his voice trembled. "That name is forbidden. Then why does it live in your archives? Why is it written beneath the names of your saints? You've built your heaven on its ashes." Gasps rippled through the chamber. The guards stepped closer, hands on their blades. The eldest judge stood. "Enough. You will be purged by confession. Kneel." I didn't move. "Confession means nothing to fire," I said. "It only listens when something burns." And then the torches went out. Darkness swallowed the hall. The murmuring stopped. The air grew hot, alive, whispering in tongues that no human throat could form. A soft light bloomed from the ceiling, white, trembling, beautiful. The cardinals fell to their knees. One whispered, "Deus miseriter." But I knew that glow. It wasn't mercy. It was memory. The light condensed into a shape, 6 wings of fire, eyes embedded in each feather, a face shifting like molten glass. The temperature rose until the marble cracked beneath our feet. Seraphiel. Its voice filled the chamber, deep as thunder, soft as forgiveness. You summoned me to judge my servant. Then let judgment be fire. The chains around my wrists snapped. The judges screamed. One burst into flame, his robes igniting without smoke. Another's rosary melted into his flesh. I stood untouched in the center of it all. Seraphiel's radiance poured over me, not burning but breathing. Stop! I cried. They don't understand. Understanding is a mercy I no longer grant. The angel's wings spread, touching every wall. The Vatican's cross above the dais turned red-hot, melting, dripping light onto the stone. The eldest judge crawled toward me, eyes wide. End it, Father. You brought it here, end it. I tried to speak, to command, to pray. But the words that came weren't mine. The flame remembers the hand that struck the match. The world became fire. When it cleared, the chamber was gone. The air above me was open sky. The Vatican's tower loomed in the distance, bells tolling without hands. At my feet lay 3 piles of ash in the shape of men. And from within the smoke, Seraphiel's voice lingered, soft, tender, terrifying. The church is clean, Elian. Now let the world remember. I fell to my knees, weeping. But even as I cried, I realized something dreadful. The tears steaming down my cheeks weren't water. They were ash. Title, Episode 15, The Flame Within. When I breathed out, fire came instead of faith. I remember the silence after the tribunal burned. It wasn't peace, it was absence. No prayers, no bells, no wind. Just smoke hanging in the air, motionless, as if the world itself was holding its breath. I wandered through the ruins, barefoot, the stones beneath me still hot. The Vatican stood in silhouette against a bruised sky, its towers bleeding light. I thought I'd gone deaf until I heard it again, that low hum, that heartbeat not my own. Seraphiel. Its voice was inside me now, not whispering, not commanding, but breathing. Each inhale filled me with warmth. Each exhale left embers drifting from my lips. My skin glowed faintly, veins alight beneath the surface like cracks in cooling lava. Why are you still here? I asked the emptiness. You've burned everything. The air shimmered. The angel appeared, hovering in the haze neither above nor before me, but within the space my shadow once occupied. Because you have not yet chosen. Chosen? I laughed, bitter. There's nothing left to choose. You killed them all. It didn't answer right away. Instead, the ground around us began to stir, ash rising like snow, swirling into shapes. Faces, hundreds of them, their mouths open in silent prayer. The dead, remade in smoke. They are not dead, the angel said. They are remembered. I felt something twist inside me, a spark, painful, pure. Remembered by who? By you. And then it began. The warmth spread from my chest outward, consuming thought, identity, flesh. My heartbeat merged with another rhythm, slow, infinite, divine. I could see everything, the city, the stars, the endless ladder of heaven smoldering above it all. I saw the truth. Seraphiel wasn't bringing destruction. It was returning it. Every miracle mankind had begged for, every divine favor traded for blood, this was the debt being paid. I was the vessel of that memory, the living proof that God's light was never mercy, only consequence. "End it," I whispered. "End me." The angel's form flickered, its wings folding inward. "You misunderstand. You are not ending, you are beginning." The pain became unbearable. My vision blurred into fire. I fell to my knees, clutching my chest as my ribs glowed white-hot. Flames licked from my mouth. I tried to scream, but only light came out. And through it all, I heard its final words, spoken gently, like a benediction. The word was made fire, and the fire became flesh. "Burn, Elian, and let heaven see itself again." The world went white. The sky tore open like fabric. Light cascaded down, not golden, but red. Streets cracked. Rivers turned to steam. The air filled with singing, beautiful, endless, unbearable. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, I stood in the middle of the ruins of Rome. Not a single soul remained. The city was made of glass, frozen mid-burn. My reflection stared back at me in a sheet of molten stone. My eyes burned like suns. My breath shimmered with smoke. I was no longer Father Elian. I was the prayer that fire made. Title, Episode 16, Ashen Eden. God returned, but he came as smoke. The world was silent after the fire. No birds, no bells, no cries, only wind whispering through glass that used to be stone. Rome lay beneath me like a frozen sea of mirrors, every building melted into memory. I walked barefoot across the ruins, and each step left no footprint, only a faint ripple of light, as if the ground still remembered the heat. The air shimmered with something almost holy. I should have felt awe, but what I felt was guilt. Because the light that shone from the sky was not dawn. It was me. My body no longer bled, it glowed. My veins pulsed with amber light, my heartbeat echoed like thunder behind my ribs. The angel was gone, or maybe it was closer than ever. That's when I saw it, the first tree. It grew from a crater, its trunk black as obsidian, its leaves made of ash. Yet they shimmered faintly, catching the light like tiny pieces of heaven that had fallen and forgotten their way home. Beneath it, a single figure knelt, a woman wrapped in white fire. Leora. Her voice was a song when she spoke. "You've done it, Father. You've opened the gate." I wanted to run, to fall at her feet, to beg forgiveness for everything. But the air between us burned with invisible flame. This isn't salvation. She smiled, gentle and terrible all at once. "No. It's memory. The world has remembered its maker, and he is smoke, not light." Behind her, the horizon trembled. What looked like clouds were rising, vast shapes of light folding and unfolding like wings. Cities were awakening in flame across the world, glowing like lanterns in the night. "Seraphiel," I whispered. "Where is he?" "He's everywhere," she said. "In the trees, in the rivers, in us. Every spark that burns is his breath." This is Eden again, Father, Eden remade in fire. I stared at the horizon, where the sky was tearing open, veins of crimson spilling like blood across heaven. I heard voices, millions of them, singing, crying, remembering. Not angels. Us. Every soul that ever burned, every prayer ever unanswered, returning in one endless hymn. "Stop it," I begged. "You'll destroy what's left." Leora's expression softened. "You still think destruction and creation are different things." She reached out her hand. "Come. Walk with me through his garden." I hesitated. The ground beneath her shimmered, Each step she took sprouting flowers of ash that bloomed and then vanished in seconds. My heart ached to follow, but when I looked down at my own hands, I saw them glowing brighter, cracking, flaking apart like embers ready to drift away. "Am I dying?" I asked. Her eyes filled with light. "No, Father. You're ascending." The sky roared. The clouds split open. And from within the light, a shape began to descend, not a figure, but a memory of one. Seraphiel, wings unfurled, body vast as the horizon, burning brighter than suns. "Eden has remembered itself," the angel's voice thundered through the heavens. "The first garden was green. The last will be gold." The world around me shimmered, streets turning to glass, rivers turning to molten light, mountains glowing like coals. Humanity's last prayers rose into the air as sparks, joining the storm above. I fell to my knees beneath the ash tree. "Is this heaven?" I whispered. Leora's voice was almost kind. "No, Father. This is what heaven looks like when it remembers the truth." And as the sky opened, pouring fire instead of grace, I felt my body dissolve into like each breath a spark, each heartbeat a hymn. There was no pain. Only memory. And for the first time, I understood. God had never left. He had simply been waiting for the world to burn enough to look like him again. Title, Episode 17, The Last Confession. This is my confession, written in fire. There is no night here. No dawn. No time, only the slow pulse of eternity breathing through what's left of creation. I don't know how long I've been here, or if here even exists anymore. The sky is a wound that never closes, and the stars are eyes that forgot how to blink. I used to think heaven was above us. Now I know it was always beneath our feet, buried under the ash of everything we tried to forget. I walk through the ruins of what was once Rome or maybe Eden. It's hard to tell. The streets are rivers of glass, reflecting the crimson light that pours endlessly from the sky. The air hums like a prayer that refuses to die. Every breath tastes of smoke and memory. And I, Father Elian, am no longer man. I am the echo of a prayer that God once ignored. My hands glow faintly when I touch the remnants of stone. Every spark that escapes me carries a whisper, a memory, a piece of someone who once believed. I become the confessional of the world, the keeper of every sin burned clean by Seraphiel's grace. Sometimes I still hear him. The angel. The flame. The sorrow of heaven. His voice no longer commands, it mourns. We were meant to shine, he whispers through the endless wind, but they taught us to worship the shadow instead. I understand now. Seraphiel wasn't trying to destroy us. He was trying to make us remember. Every act of faith, every lie told in God's name, every hand raised in prayer, he gathered it all and returned it as fire. Memory turned to mercy. But mercy burns. I found Leora again, if you can call it finding. She stood beside the ashen tree, her form flickering between light and silence. "It's beautiful," she said, gesturing to the horizon. And it was terrible and beautiful. Mountains glowing, rivers of molten gold winding through forests of dust. "This is what comes after forgiveness," she whispered. "A world that finally remembers everything it tried to bury." She turned to me then, and for the first time, her eyes were human again. "Will you confess, Father? One last time?" And I did. I confessed that I envied the fire for its certainty. That I had called myself holy while carrying hell inside me. That I had mistaken silence for faith, and faith for obedience. I confessed that I had prayed not to God, but to my own fear. She listened, and when I finished, she smiled. "Then you are clean." The wind rose, carrying her words into the heavens, scattering them like ashes across an infinite sky. Now I sit beneath the tree, writing these words on pages that cannot burn. My hand leaves trails of light across the parchment. When I finish, I will let the pages go, and they will rise into the red clouds, joining the song of all things. If someone ever finds this, if there is still someone left to read, remember this. We were not punished. We were purified. Heaven was never a place. It was a wound that finally learned to heal. And I, Elian, the priest who spoke in flame, am its last confession. May these words burn long enough to remind whoever comes next. Even the light prays for forgiveness.
Epilogue: The angel who spoke in flames. Soft, distant breath. The sound of burning embers rising. A voice, calm, weary, almost reverent. They said the world ended in fire. But they were wrong. It didn't end. It remembered. When the last church fell silent, when the sky turned to glass, I realized that faith was never about salvation. It was about memory. About the things we worshipped because we were too afraid to face ourselves. Seraphiel showed me that. He wasn't the devil they feared, nor the angel they prayed to. He was what remained when heaven forgot its own name. And I was his echo, his priest, his pyre, his last word. I thought I was preaching for God. But every sermon, every confession, every whispered prayer was the sound of the world asking to be burned clean. Now, there is no sin left, only ash. The rivers glow. The trees hum. The stars have learned how to listen again. This is Eden reborn. Not green, not pure, honest. Because light without shadow is blindness. And holiness without pain is nothing but a lie. So if you hear my voice, in the rustle of fire, in the hum of the wind, in the whisper of a candle about to die, know this: the angels did not fall. They simply landed where they were needed most. Inside us. And if one day you see the sky turn red and the air shimmer like glass, do not pray for mercy. Do not run. Just close your eyes, breathe, and listen. Because somewhere in the fire, God is speaking again. And this time, he sounds human.